evening. My name is Michael Glover-Smith, and welcome to the final theatrical screening of Relative. I think some people are going to be trickling in late, so I'm going to draw this speech out as long as possible so no one misses the beginning of the film. This is a sold-out screening, and I just want to thank you all so much for being here at the end. I have claimed in the past that other screenings were the final theatrical screening, so obviously I lied. I'm the proverbial boy who cried wolf. But this really is the final one because this film will be made available to stream beginning Tuesday via our distributor, Music Box Films. Yes. I want to thank them, and I want to thank the Music Box Theater for hosting this final screening. This is actually where we had our first non-festival screening way back in 2022. So this film has been in theaters for a very, very long time, and it's very gratifying to see such a healthy turnout after this film has literally played in the Chicagoland area 47 times. So it means a lot to me that you all are here, and I just want to say, since the film is streaming beginning on Tuesday, if you enjoy it, Lucy Aguirre! Yes, the greatest production assistant of all time just walked through the door. Please tell your family and friends that they can stream it via Amazon Prime, Apple Plus, Vudu, Google Play, and YouTube. There will be links to all of those platforms on the website of the distributor, musicboxfilms.com. And the final thing I want to say is please do stick around for the post-screening Q&A. I'll be doing it along with 3 of the actresses from the film. The great Wendy Robie, who I'm sure you all know from Twin Peaks and The People Under the Stairs. Who else is going to be here? The great Melissa DuPrey, who was living in LA, working on Grey's Anatomy when I cast her. We had to fly her in, although she's originally from here. And then, who else? Emily Lape, one of my favorite actresses and filmmakers, will be here as well. And moderating this Q&A will be one of my favorite critics, a woman named Megan Fariello, who writes for Cinephile Chicago. I met Meg a year ago at our last screening, which was at the Alamo Draft House. And I met her after the screening, and then she went home and went on Letterboxd and rated this movie 5 stars. So, of course, I had to ask her to moderate. She's now my favorite critic of all time. So, anyway, enjoy the show, and I will see you in 7 short minutes.
If you had to choose between never having any soup again for the rest of your life or never having oral sex again for the rest of your life, which would you choose?
No soup. Hey, you're Heckler, right?
That's right.
I'm Benji Frank. We had a geography class together a couple years ago.
Are you guys looking forward to tomorrow?
Oh, of course. We haven't had the whole family together in 2 years.
I almost wish we didn't have to go.
Then we don't have to go.
I just need to ask a favor, that you try to be on your best behavior this weekend. There are a lot of people here tonight, and your mother and I want things to run smoothly.
Nice to have the family all together again, huh? Where's Benji?
Well, the truth is, I haven't stopped thinking about you since we met last night. I mean, I had such a good time. I just wanted to keep the conversation going, I didn't give a damn about graduating today.
He's bringing a date. Here.
It's been 4 years since you and Sarah broke up. When are you gonna move on, man?
You don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You never even fucking talked to me, so do not act like you have any fucking clue what's going on in my life.
Shut. I don't want an empty nest.
Can I kiss you?
Let's try it.
Mom, you married the wrong guy.
Honey, if I hadn't married your father, you wouldn't be here.
Half of me would.
Say queso.
Queso.
Thank you all so much for sticking around. I would like to introduce some of the cast of Relative. First of all, the great Wendy Robie, who plays Karen Frank. Come on down. I would also like to introduce Emily Lape, who plays her daughter Norma. I am almost certain that Melissa DuPrey, who plays Lucia, is going to be here, but she actually got booked for a shoot. So she may be joining us late. And the moderator of our panel is Megan Fariello, wonderful film critic for Cinephiles. Wendy. You guys come on over, have a seat. Okay. Wendy, come down.
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. Nice crowd. So I want to start off why we're here screening it this night in particular. For all of you, but maybe Mike in particular, what does it mean to have this film available on streaming after all these years?
It's hard to believe we're finally here.
Yeah.
I mean, we shot this movie a long time ago.
Yeah.
Remember COVID?
Yeah. We were supposed to shoot it in the spring of 2020, and we had to postpone 13 months. I've never come closer to not making a movie than I did this one, but we did it, and then we premiered in, I believe, March of 22 at a film festival in Tampa, Florida, the Gasparilla Film Festival, which was phenomenal, and we've kept this movie in theaters for the past 2 years. So that kind of goes against the grain of how you're supposed to release movies today. Most filmmakers try and, put their movies online very quickly. And I firmly believe that you should try and keep them in theaters as long as possible. So now that we're finally here, it's kind of surreal.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. But I'm glad because, in a film's exhibition life, streaming is the final resting place of every movie, in the great streaming graveyard, where there are a million titles, and the movie blends in with everything else. But it allows me to let it go, and now I'm ready to make another film.
Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Congratulations. I think Wendy brought up COVID, that this film was made during COVID. Can you talk about, for all of you, the casting process, especially for a film that is about family and bringing together a group of actors in a time when it's hard to bring anybody together?
What do you remember about your auditions, the two of you?
I just remember sitting at a coffee shop and you telling me you're gonna act in this film. Yeah, and it was for a total different role too.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Yeah, and then I remember you're like, actually, I see you more as Norma.
Which role were you original? Were we
Rod's ex.
Mm-hmm.
Sarah. Sarah. Yeah.
Yeah, Sarah. So, but yeah, that's what I remember. Yeah. Yeah. What about you? Oh.
I just
pretty much.
I mean, the coffee shop.
Coffee shop. We have a lot of coffee meetings. That's how I cast.
Yeah, we shook on it.
It was a handshake agreement, right?
Yeah, it was.
Are there any openings?
What, for the next film?
Yeah.
Just slide into my DM.
For a film like this, I feel like rewatching it yesterday, there are so many moments where it's just one or two people on screen, and also these large group family moments. I think for any of you, how, as a director or a performer, do you manage those balancing those different scenes? Because I'm really struck by, particularly towards the end of the film, the kind of moments between either two characters or just Norma at the end by herself, in comparison to these large sort of group scenes.
Well, I really want to hear what you guys have to say, but
Yeah.
as the director, for me, it was kind of a deliberate challenge that I set for myself.
Sure.
There's one scene where there are 12 people on screen,
Yeah.
and I had never done anything remotely like that. So for me, I wanted to make a film about a family. That was the initial impulse. But I also wanted to make a film about a party, you know, where the party would be sort of the climax. Yeah. And it's hard to block scenes when you have that many people on screen. So that was fun. But you know, I also wanted to make a film about specifically the disintegration of a family. You know, we talk about that in the dialogue. And so that's what happens with families. You know, they come together and then they break apart.
Yeah.
And the party scene is when you have 12 people on screen, but then immediately after, everyone leaves, and they all kind of break off into groups of 2. And that montage scene, which I think is really wonderfully shot by our cinematographer, Olivia Aquilina. The camera is constantly panning from right to left across those characters. And that was actually Olivia's idea. And she and I were so in sync with one another that whenever she suggested anything to me, I instantly agreed. Because what she suggested to me was more me than what I had originally planned. Like, that's how well we worked. But just to give you an example, the montage was written into the script. Like, all of those little actions of the women doing their midnight jog and Norma on her phone texting "I love you" to her husband. That was all in the script, but I felt like by moving the camera across the characters, it sort of visually reinforced the idea that these people are still connected, even though they're not in the same space. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
As performers, how do you navigate like scenes in which you're in a large group versus the kind of like single individual, or even Karen talking to Evonne about mental health at the end. What is sort of difference approach?
I'm always looking for the best light in the room.
Yeah.
So just try to position myself there. But no, I didn't have. I mean, I think it's harder as a big group. You try to find your person you can connect with.
Yeah.
Right. And so just thinking about that as a family, like what sibling am I the closest to, or maybe I want mom's attention or something like that. So it's more about like what scene we're actually shooting than anything. I think for me.
It's funny. I hadn't thought of it. I hadn't thought of it. I don't think of it as a different approach, whether whether there are 19 people in the room or there's just one other person or you're by yourself, you're still you, meaning whoever you are.
Yeah.
But, you know, generally I'm listening to somebody and, you know, truly listening to them.
Yeah.
And that pretty much tells you what you're doing. That makes sense?
Yes.
Can I just say it was such a blessing to act alongside Wendy. Yeah, it was honestly such a gift. You could just fall into her eyes as another actor. Like, there's just something, she's so easy to connect with. She's such an actor's actor. So I just wanted to tell you that. I don't think I've ever told you that. It is a gift, definitely.
There's a
thank you.
And you can tell, I think, on screen how much you all connected as a group. I think it really comes through. There's a moment very early on. Someone quotes Orson Welles about happy accidents in filmmaking, and obviously this was made in a time where there was a lot going on in the world, a lot of COVID restrictions. But maybe not even related to that, if anyone has any stories about sort of happy accidents that came out of shooting.
Well, I can say it's not exactly an accident, but can you imagine how happy we all were?
Sure.
I mean, I don't know how many filmmakers or actors you have in the audience, but you know, this was like the first job we had in a long time, and just to have something to work on was wonderful. But then to be able to get together and make art together, it was just this, it was joyful. It was the best thing.
It helped the film in a way. It helped the creation of family.
Yeah, and you know, we had a lot of hoops we had to jump through. I mean, you know, as soon as you were off camera, your mask was on again, and we had to be tested constantly, and you know, we had to. There were all these rules that you know, so it was, you kind of had to, you know, be cleansed before you got onto the set, which was this lovely house.
Yeah.
But it was, I can't remember when I've been happier to get to work and, you know, get going. And it was like once we got there, once we got to work, you didn't want to leave. You know, if you weren't on camera, you were helping them in the kitchen, or you were, you know, doing something, or, you know, helping somebody, you know, fix the, just whatever. You just didn't want to leave. It was wonderful.
I remember, Wendy, you ate the pancakes. She ate the prop food because the pancakes were so good. Our production designer, Steph McDonald, you had to eat it on camera, and then we said cut, and you said, "Can I finish this?"
It's true. It was like, how many times do you get somebody, you know, you get Fran Guinan flipping your pancakes for you? You know, you jump on that. So anyway, it was a blast. Yeah, it was fun.
How long did it take?
The shooting, we shot the whole thing in 11 days.
Oh.
Yeah, so the shooting process was quick. The shooting was quick, but there was a lot of prep that went into it, because we were originally going to shoot, May of 2020, and then we finally started in June of 21. So we were very prepared. We had done some Zoom rehearsals.
Oh yes, the Zoom.
Oh, God. How do you feel about Zoom, Wendy?
Zoom is a succubus that lives on your computer. But we were working on that movie for a long time, because there were 26 drafts, if I recall.
Yeah, there were 20 plus drafts, and a lot of them were written during COVID. So I had the luxury of working on it for more time, and it got shorter, actually, which was interesting.
Yeah.
This is my second time seeing it, and I loved it so much the first time, and this time I loved it for all of these different reasons. And one of the things I noticed, and maybe it's just looking back now, but you have a theme that constantly pops up, and maybe that's with the rewrites during COVID, but it's bad things get better. And I don't know that I really heard that the last time. Is that something that came through in drafts? Is it happy accident? You know, what's that about?
I know what you're saying, and I will say that I'll quote Orson Welles again, because he has the best quotes. But he said, if you want a happy ending, that depends on where you stop your story.
Yeah.
And I didn't want this ending to feel happy or sad. I wanted it to be both at the same time. Because it's not, you know, when I was a kid growing up taking literature classes and creative writing classes, I was always taught that character should be in service of story. And I think that's wrong. I think a whole generation of us that grew up in the 20th century were taught that if the point is the character to serve the story, then the narrative itself should be like an efficient machine, you know, where everything should have a purpose.
The well-made play.
Yes. And as I, you know, started to explore, you know, the history of cinema as a young cinephile, I realized I gravitated more towards films that were not plot-driven, that were more character-driven. And so I kind of felt the opposite. I thought, no, you know, all I care about is character, and I don't care about story. And I think when I made this film specifically, I kind of even forgot about that, and I thought, what I want to do is capture emotions that I have felt in my own life that I think are very complicated. And specifically, because I knew I wanted to make a film about a family, I wanted to show what it's like to reunite with your family and then also to have to leave them. So in a lot of ways, the final scene was for me the reason for the movie's existence. And it was really important to me that Norma have tears in her eyes when she walks up to the door. And we used a diopter for that shot. That's the closest the camera is to any character. It's an extreme close-up. And fortunately, Emily Lape just has the most expressive eyes. She's got these great watery peepers. And I think, you know, the process of constructing the movie for me was the process of like finding the characters and situations that would allow me to arrive at that destination of her face at the end.
There's like a theme for you. It's really Michael's theme, I think. And it's continue the conversation.
Yeah.
It's always there for you.
Yeah, Benji says that to Heckler.
Yeah,
he
yeah,
says,
yeah.
let's, and that's actually in my first film too, which you haven't seen, which is funny. Continue the conversation is in Cool Apocalypse. So you're right. You know me better than anyone. But I sort of want you to feel like there's no ending, you know, because at the end of the film, we don't know, are you going to sell the house? Like, first they say they want to do it, and then they're like, well, maybe not. Same thing with Evonne and Lucia. We're going to get separated. Well, maybe we're not. I don't want you to know for sure either way. I mean, it could go either way. We don't know. Life goes on. That's the way the world is. We'll make a sequel.
Yeah.
Which is a lot what you were saying.
Yeah.
Which is a lot what you
Yeah.
were saying.
Either way, I don't know, it gives me hope watching this film. Either way the road goes for these characters, I go, they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
At some point, and that's nice.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
I had a great experience this week seeing two made in Chicago movies with Chicago leads and Chicago crews get distribution and be at the top of their game. And I first off want to thank you for doing that. Thank you for bringing it home and keeping it in this community, because we produce, I think, some of the best work in the world.
And what's the other film?
It was Ghostland.
I can't wait to see it.
It starts here.
I thanked Alex in the closing credits because I actually had breakfast with him when we were thinking about making this, and he was very encouraging to me.
You share a castmate too. You got H.B. Ward.
Oh, H.B. Ward, that's right.
My question is this: to be as organic and honest that this film was, it's right about family. I'm guessing you delved into your own and wrote maybe some from that. I guess the two-part of it is, who did you see yourself most as in the film? And has your family seen this film? What kind of reactions would I get to?
Well, I'll answer the second part first. At the world premiere, it was an amazing experience because I was sitting between my parents in Tampa, Florida, and then I have two brothers, one older, one younger, and we were all there together, and that was the first time we had all been together in about 20 years. Wow. Because my parents got divorced when I moved up here to go to college back in the 90s. So whenever my parents are in the same room, it's always awkward for us as children. However, it was a wonderful experience. You know, they laughed. I could tell they were cringing at times because they recognize certain things to be true. And it's not like explicitly autobiographical. I mean, it's fiction, you know, but at the same time, the emotions are true. The circumstances are different, but the emotions are all real. And the character I see myself most as, believe it or not, is Norma. Because when I go home, I'm the one that does what my parents want to do. Yeah.
I think we are about out of time, unfortunately, but thank you all so much, and thanks everyone for being here.
To quote Wendy, let's keep the conversation going in the lounge. Let's all have a drink in the lounge.
They have another film later.
Henry, thank you so much for coming.
I didn't know what it meant though. Like it's a process.
I did get it, but I haven't looked at it. I'm gonna all the breaks tomorrow. But